Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, where you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. And today I have a very special guest with me today, and that's Chris Dean. I want to welcome Chris.
Hi.
So we're going to jump into your story. And so Chris, you are living currently, where do you live?
I live in Columbus, Indiana, actually just outside of Columbus in the sticks.
Oh, okay. And is that where you're from originally?
I actually, my husband and I purchased the house that I was brought home from the hospital to. So I am literally living exactly where I came from.
Oh, that is so cool. So I can say that you are a writer, and that's how I met you. You're a poet, but you've done many other things. So why don't we get into your story and how you started writing and the different things that you've been
Okay.
So you started doing poetry when?
I started writing poetry about 2018. Life kind of threw a heck of a curveball all at once, and poetry helped me kind of sort out the chaos in my head, get it straight on paper, and in some instances find a new way to look at the problem.
I can tell you, having read your poetry, I'm actually surprised that it's that recent, because you sound like a lifelong writer.
I mean, I wrote, I was like probably 75% of teenagers, and in high school wrote really bad love poetry. But that was, and I have written, I did a stint a few years ago blogging, but poetry, I didn't really start writing until about 2018.
Okay, so how did you get started blogging? Was there most people have a topic or a platform or something. What was yours about?
I was a health and humor blogger. In 2011, I got sick and took almost a year to figure out that I have this mouthful of autoimmune disease called scleroderma. Basically, my body produces too much collagen, which a little gives you lovely skin, too much, and it actually hardens the tissue. So, and anywhere in your body you have connective tissue, it can cause issues. But so I got sick and eventually had to quit work, could not keep up while they were trying to figure out what was wrong and how to fix it, and started blogging as a way to keep from going stir crazy.
It's amazing. So can I ask how you put humor in that?
I am the world's biggest goofball. So let's see, the one that's sticking out, one of the first weird ones that was just me being me. I'd had the muscles in my face were just inflamed. They hurt so bad. So I had this brilliant idea. Icy hot patches work great on shoulders and arms. So why not cut one up and put it on my face where it was hurting? the problem was you don't consider the menthol action close to your eyes and nose. But before it really hit me, and I went, oh, dear Lord, what have I done? I had time to take markers and, draw smiley faces, cheeks, and the little smiles on the patches. So that was that there was a blog documenting, why am I doing this? Oh my gosh, it feels so much better. Oh wait, I can't see. What have I done? With pictures to go with it.
Oh my.
So,
I had a visual. So
oh yeah, it's probably everything you're imagining. Um, I have periodic bouts of vertigo. So there were several videos I would have my daughter, because if people, and I mean, I have to laugh at myself because it's better than crying. And I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm laughing or crying. I'm still not walking down a hallway without crawling or holding onto a wall. So I might as well find the humor. Um, and I'd have my daughter, okay, I have to go to a bathroom run, see if you can catch me. And she'd just tape me trying to walk across the living room. It was the worst 3-day drunk looking person you'd ever seen. Until prednisone would kick in and calm it down. But so yeah, anything I could find to find a reason to laugh, I guess.
you're not the first person that I've interviewed that have had some challenges with getting a diagnosis, and that not knowing has to be a real challenge.
Well, that's one of the things I kind of fell into while poking fun at myself was, meeting a lot of people who had similar experiences. And I found out I read a book, The Empowered Patient, and I, for the life of me, can't remember the author, but it stated things like, did you know that you were legally entitled to any medical test they've ever done on you, to having the results in your hand? And this years before all the e-patient online things. So I drove around to 4 different hospitals, getting copies of test results, copies of MRIs and CT scans. And it turns out that while they were telling me all my tests were coming back normal, I'd actually had 6 separate weak positive test results for autoimmune disease. But because they were weak positive in their opinion, they considered them negative.
Like
So
the borderline sort of, like
yes,
in between.
because those numbers are averages. You take 100 people and the average is this, that, it's like any other sliding scale. But so, yeah, telling people, look, you have to advocate for yourself. Get your test results. Push for, you can request specific tests to be done. Do your research. And I mean, don't go down scary rabbit holes, but I mean, do scientific research, talk to doctors, talk to nurses, but find out what tests they can do. For instance, if you're looking for autoimmune disease, your first step is an ANA panel with patterning. And it's amazing how many people I come across who, well, I've been sick for 1.5 years. They're not quite sure what it is, but they've never done an ANA panel on them.
I've never even heard of it. So, though I'm not in the situation, but, and the normal range for things, I've been around a long time. And the normal range for things changes, whether
Yep.
it's blood sugars, blood pressure, any of those, based on, I guess, new research or whatever. So if you're like marginal on one way, I could see where they should at least consider. And you're absolutely correct that you need to be your own advocate and research. And I can tell you that like my mom's generation would have accepted everything that her doctor said just verbatim, never questioned. It was like that generation. Of course, that's probably a generalization as well, but all of
Nope, you're sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that generation didn't seem to want to question things.
No, and I think some of it is, uh, my generation. I was born in '70, so I'm just a tad behind at the end of the baby boomers, but a little bit more distrust of authority, maybe. But yeah, I can respect, and I have told doctors before, I respect your knowledge. You have a service I need. You have knowledge I need. I need your help, but we're partners. And this is my body. I do not walk up to your house, walk around the outside and look in the, bedroom window and living room window and tell you, I know your house better than you do. I live in it 24/7. If I tell you there's an issue, please listen to me and let's discuss. Don't just tell me it's in my head, because now I'm going to be mad. And I also have the right to go, I withdraw my consent to treatment, you're fired, and go find a different doctor that will listen.
Your words are so true. A person doesn't have to be skeptic to question. And I can remember way back having worked in a hospital where a doctor didn't even want you to ask why he did something, even in the hospital setting. And I'm thinking, and you know what? Here's what I'm going to say. Just my 2 cents is when someone goes to school and they get their degree and their certifications and all the license and all that, there is no way, as fast as the medicine world and technology and all that's changing, that they can know everything out there. I mean,
Yeah.
and you know what? The patient like you that's at home researching may have a lot of answers. You may not. So, so that's how you started your blog. And so I know that you've written articles. Were any of your articles about the health issues or?
Yes, I've had articles on like online magazines, Bon Bon Break magazine, Midlife Boulevard, Scary Mommy. I'm trying to think, it's been a while. Huffington Post.
That's impressive.
But as there were several that were about life with chronic illness. Then there were some that were just poking fun at life in general. For instance, technically, I can claim that I am a yoga model because I, at one point, did an article, Yoga for the Middle-Aged Crowd, where I created my own yoga poses, like help, I've fallen and I can't get up pose. And had I basically blackmailed my youngest to take pictures of me doing these poses. It was picked up by Huffington Post, and it was picked up by a small local yoga magazine out of San Francisco a number of years ago. So I could technically claim,
wow,
that I'm a yoga model.
that is
always
exciting. So how did you get in these different magazines and Huffington Post? I mean, how did those come about?
One of the editors at Bon Bon Break magazine actually contacted Huffington Post over an article I'd written, and they invited me to post. But that I have no idea how the magazine out of San Francisco found me. I just got an email one day saying, "Hey, we'd like to use your post and your pictures." I'm like, okay.
If it had
Bon
already
Bon,
been out, I can kind of see if it was already in something else, because, people scout around for things, and, you see a newspaper article, another person from another paper might contact you that. So I can see that, but the first ones, that's
I started writing at a weird time, and it was like right after the whole concept of blogging had just blown up. And there were a lot of wonderful writers that I came across and became friends with, met up with them at a couple different conferences. But the ladies that founded Bon Bon Break magazine, I'm not sure how they contacted me about an article I'd written, a post I'd made, about social media. uh, I kind of rewrote The Cat in the Hat, only it was about social media.
oh.
And that was how they found me. But just
So humor seems to be a thread through maybe not all of your writing, but your life and how you deal with things. Is that adequate to say?
yes,
Well, that's
yep. I like the little memes that I've seen that you know, doesn't kill me makes me stronger is may not be true, but what doesn't kill me gives me, unhealthy coping mechanisms and a really dark sense of humor. That one probably is closer to true.
Well, I think that it has served you well, and it could be a great thing for people to adopt. So you're a published author, and your book is stories, poems.
Tales from a Broken Girl.
Okay. How
It's
did
a
that
book
come
of
about?
poetry.
Okay. How did it come about that you decided to publish?
In 2018, I sent a couple of the poems I had written to a friend of mine that I actually met through the chronic health community when I was writing a blog, Barbara Story. And she's a wonderful creative in Canada. And I knew she had written something similar to the poems I sent her. And she's like, wow, these are great. Keep writing. Like, right on, cool. And she had toyed with the idea of, are you interested in ever publishing? I'm like, yeah, I'm just writing. I don't know about that. And then her life took off one direction, mine took off another. And she contacted me last year. Wait, 2023. No, she contacted me in 2022. Had to think a minute. And asked me if I was still writing. Yeah. And she said, well, do you want to do a book? Because she had some bumps in the health road, and she was told she had to dial it back and settle herself a little bit. And she does not settle at all. I don't think she's capable of settling.
Oh,
So she was looking for something to keep her unsettled. And so we started talking about the possibility of doing a book, and she convinced me to send her more work and give it a go. And yeah, so it's all her fault. Barbara Story's fault.
is that really her last name?
Yes. Yeah. Can you think of a better name for a publisher? She's also an author, but yes, that is really her last name.
Wow. So she helped publish you.
Yes, she has a small independent publishing company, Storylines Press, and she published Tales from a Broken Girl. I just drove her crazy, sending her material and going back and forth about, changing layout or design every other week. Wait, do you think it'd look better like this? Okay, what do you think about this? So, she's also amazing at herding cats.
Oh, like she has a lot.
No, no. Well, if she can deal with me, then she can herd any number of cats any
Oh,
day of the week.
oh, that was figurative. I didn't catch that. So how about um your you've written and things like that, but did you have influences in your life as far as stories? We chatted a little bit before we started recording today. So is there any of your story about family, any influences that
My grandpa, my mother's father, was a heck of a storyteller. The man loved to tell stories. Um, and my I grew up listening to him from pretty much the day I was born and came home. Um, it's as far as poets, I I hate admitting this, but I really didn't read a lot of poetry until recently. I was public school child who was force fed any number of poets that I found dry and boring and really not relevant. The one poet that I actually did like, I had the love of him beat out of me pretty much, because for whatever reason, one of our assignments was we had to memorize Birches by Robert Frost, verbatim, punctuation, spelling, phrasing, write it, recite it, and it was like a month of nothing but Birches, and I ended up I was like, I can die a happy person if I never have to read another word by Robert Frost.
oh
Uh, but I, in it last year, I kind of discovered that there's actually a big online poetry community, um, and quite a few that are close to where I live. And I have met so many amazing poets, read so many amazing poets, attended readings where I've heard so many amazing poets. It's like a whole new world. I feel like a kid.
so that's how the open mic started.
The open mic started because my publisher was yelling at me that it wouldn't do, great, you've agreed to put out a book, but if no one knows who you are or your work, it's not going to do anything. So
Mm.
you need to leave the house and go out into the real world. Um, and I got a notice that they were doing an open mic uh, in Seymour, Indiana, just like half an hour south of us the next weekend. So to heck with it. I went, scared to death, but I went. And that was in 2022, August. I attended another one in, I think, December of 2022. And then in January, the Columbus Area Arts Council started backing, my mind went blank. Oh my gosh. Started putting on monthly open mic poetry and prose events at Hotel Indigo that were hosted by Sky Nicholson. So I started attending those last January. So yeah, I'm still really, really new at all of this.
So how does that work? Do you like with other open mics? I've only been to music ones. I've been to poetry ones, but I didn't know how they were organized. So do you go and you sign up that night?
Yeah, yeah, they started in, I think, May, started having featured poets for the evening that Sky would get up and do introductions and read a few poems. And then the featured poet would have about 15 minutes to highlight their work. And then after that, it's the open mic portion where before everything starts, they have a list that you can sign up to read. And then everyone who's signed up has their 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how many people showed up that night, to read their work.
Wow. You know, when you first said 15 minutes, I thought you meant for the people that signed up. I was going, that's a long time.
Yeah, that'd be a really
I've been
long
going, okay,
night.
I've done a minute. Okay, I've got 14 to go.
Yeah, I'm good. I've done 5. I'm good. I'm gonna go sit down now.
So what gives you your inspiration for your poetry that you currently do?
I have absolutely no idea. Um,
So how does it come to you? You just out of the blue, driving a car, taking a shower, all these things that I've heard people say that sort of it just pops
yes,
in their head and all of those?
yes. Okay, well, for instance, you mentioned when we talked earlier, um, that chasing a train
Yes.
kind of spoke to you. Um, Sky, I went out for coffee with Sky to discuss possibly being a featured poet. And on my way home, Columbus is literally circled with a train track. So going home, I was coming around a circled part, curved part of the road, running side by side with a train. I looked up at it and just went, my life is riding on that train. And damn, now what do I do? And I ended up, as strange as this is, I ended up as soon as I got out of town, pulling over and um, writing the poem so I didn't lose it before I got home. So I weird, sometimes things hit like that. Sometimes, I mean, if I write a lot of uh, standing on my back deck and in the dark poetry, because I usually in the morning step outside on our back deck just to listen to the wind in the trees or leaves down by the creek blowing in the wind. I listen to the neighbors' dogs or coyotes or owls, and you know, so I guess I get a lot of inspiration from the land, the area around the house.
Coyotes and owls, you are out there. Of course, I've heard of coyotes coming closer in towns anymore. So anyway, um, so this podcast is called Bloom Where You're Planted. So that means something different to everyone. So what does that mean to Chris?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it and I just keep coming back to the same thing. I didn't start writing till I was, you know, darn near 50 years old. Not writing, you know, I guess I didn't start writing poetry seriously until I was almost 50 years old because started having children when I was 19. I have 4 every 18 months. So I was very busy when I was younger. And I
Yeah.
kept thinking, there'll be time. There'll be time. I can get back to this someday. Someday I'll get back to it when they're older and I have time. And the fact is, I wonder how much, where my writing could have taken me or where it would be now or who it could have spoken to that might need to hear something weird or off the wall that I say, um, if I had just bloomed where I was planted.
Hmm.
If I had just said, okay, this is where I'm at, so we'll make this work, instead of putting it off, going, someday I'll get back to it.
Hmm. Well, the Never Too Late Cafe.
I love the name of that, by the way.
Well, it really did come about because I thought of my age and starting, I started things after I retired. And the concept was, so what? I'm this age, and it really was about creativity. It wasn't like not saying I love you to someone and they pass away, not that sort of never too late, because that can be too late. It was about
Yes.
creating. And so I would say to you that I'm glad that regardless of what age you did, because your words have been very inspiring. And
Thank
whether
you.
it was almost 50 or if it would have been sooner, it's never too late that you started it. So, what words of wisdom would you give to someone that wants to do what you are doing or have done?
Just do it. One of the saddest things, most heartbreaking things I have heard somebody say about writing was when they were younger, they were told that they had to follow rules and they got upset because there were too many rules and quit writing. There aren't rules. Just do it, right. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to be a specific meter. I mean, prose, that's my baby because there aren't rules. It's what I make of it. Writing is what you make of it. Creativity in any form is what you make of it. So make it. Screw the rules.
I love that. I love that. So what's next for Chris? What's on the horizon for you?
I am working on putting together a second manuscript with Barbara and Storylines Press. In theory to be released next year. Also, I am embracing the more the merrier, because I have come across so many amazing writers and poets at different open mics or like poetry workshops I've gone to, and going, hey, guess what? You have an amazing voice. You tell really, really great stories. So why are you hiding? Just get out. Come play with me. We'll have fun. I'm dragging someone with me to a poetry reading, an open mic tomorrow for that very reason, because she has a voice that needs to be heard. So we're gonna go out and let it be heard.
So
But
you're supporting someone in their endeavor as well.
I would love to personally, I mean, it's kind of a worn out adage, but when the water rises, all ships float. But it's true, they do. And the more the merrier. I don't care if somebody is Longfellow or limericks, somebody somewhere wants to hear you. So stop being afraid.
Wow, I like your words and your encouragement. And that's what this is about, is to encourage people. And so I want to thank you, Chris, for sharing your story and what you do, and we will definitely include links to your yoga video and how people can reach you, and it's been lots of fun. So I want to thank you again for being a guest today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So as our time comes to a close, remember to keep creating, keep sharing, and keep supporting each other. And remember to bloom where you're planted. Bye for now.